You think the education system is broken? You are wrong. It is working exactly as designed. The modern school system was not created to make you smart. It was created in the 18th century by the Kingdom of Prussia to mass-produce obedient soldiers and factory workers. Look at it. The ringing bells? That is the factory shift whistle. The rows of desks? That is the assembly line. The grading system? That is quality control for standardizing human beings. They do not want thinkers. They do not want dreamers. They want employees who sit still, shut up, and do repetitive tasks for 40 years without questioning authority. If you hated school, it is not because you are stupid. It is because your soul rejected the programming. The origins. The Prussian model. To understand the trap, you must understand the architect. The school system as you know it, 6 hours a day, rows of desks, age segregation, and standardized testing, was not an accidental invention. It was imported. In the 18th century, the Kingdom of Prussia faced a crisis. They had lost wars because their soldiers were too independent. They thought too much. So, the king commissioned a new system of education. The goal was explicit: to crush the individual will and replace it with obedience to the state. They did not want philosophers, artists, or inventors. They wanted soldiers who would march in a straight line and fire when ordered. And it worked. The Prussian army became the most disciplined machine in Europe. Fast forward to the 19th century in America. The Industrial Revolution is exploding. Factory owners have a massive problem. The farmers and craftsmen of the old world are too independent. They work when they want, they rest when they are tired, and they despise authority. You cannot run a factory with men like that. You need biological machines. Enter Horace Mann and the General Education Board, funded by titans like John D. Rockefeller. They looked at the Prussian model and saw the perfect solution. Rockefeller famously said, "I do not want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers." And he put his money where his mouth was. They poured millions into reshaping the American education system to mimic the Prussian factories. The school bell was designed to mimic the factory whistle. The grading system was designed to mimic quality control. I means you are a high-quality product ready for the corporate ladder. F means you're a defect. They separated children by age, not by ability, to ensure that no one stood out and everyone moved at the speed of the slowest common denominator. This system was perfect for 1920. It built the steel mills and the assembly lines that powered the 20th century. But we are not in 1920 anymore. The factories are gone, replaced by algorithms and automation. Yet the system remains, churning out compliant workers for jobs that no longer exist. You are being trained for a world that died 50 years ago. The creativity killer, the NASA study. But the system does not just demand obedience, it actively destroys your capacity for genius. And I am not using that word lightly. In the late 1960s, NASA hired scientists George Land and Beth Jarman to develop a test for divergent thinking. They needed to identify engineers who could solve problems that had never existed before. The test was brilliant. It measured the ability to look at a problem and see 100 different solutions. It measured pure creative potential. The test worked so well for NASA that the scientists decided to try it on children. The results were terrifying. They tested 1,600 children between the ages of 4 and 5. What percentage of them scored at the genius level for creative potential? 98%. Almost every single child was a genius. 5 years later, they tested the same children again at age 10. The number dropped to 30%. 5 years later at age 15, it dropped to 12%. And when they tested 280,000 adults, the number was 2%. Think about that. You were born a genius. You were born with a mind capable of infinite possibility. And then you went to school. School teaches convergent thinking. It teaches you that for every question, there is one right answer, and it is in the back of the teacher's book. If you find a different answer, you are wrong. If you question the question, you are disruptive. If you cannot sit still for 7 hours and stare at a chalkboard, they do not change the environment. They change your brain chemistry. They diagnose you with ADHD and feed you amphetamines to make you a better employee. We are medicating childhood out of existence. We are taking the most creative, energetic, and brilliant minds on the planet and crushing them into cubicles. The system is not failing because dropout rates are high. The system is failing because it is successfully lobotomizing the curiosity of the human race. You are not stupid. You are just educated. The financial trap, the silence. Ask yourself a simple question. You spent 12 to 16 years in the education system? You learned the capital of Vermont? You learned how to find the hypotenuse of a triangle. But did you spend a single hour learning how to file your taxes? Did anyone teach you how central banking works? Did they explain the difference between an asset and a liability? No. And that is not an oversight. It is a feature. A financially literate population is impossible to govern. A financially literate population is impossible to exploit. If they taught you how money actually works, the entire house of cards would collapse. They need you to be financially illiterate because the system runs on debt. Think about the irony. To get a good job, they tell you to go to university. To go to university, you must take on massive debt. You are literally starting your adult life in chains. You are paying interest to a bank for the privilege of being trained to be an employee. By the time you get your first paycheck, you are already behind. You are desperate. And desperate people do not quit. Desperate people do not start businesses. Desperate people shut up and work overtime. School teaches you one specific financial equation: time equals money. They train you to trade your hours for dollars. This is the equation of the servant. It is the equation of the poor. The wealthy do not trade time for money. They trade value for money. They make money while they sleep. But if everyone did that, who would man the factories? Who would serve the coffee? Who would file the paperwork? The curriculum is designed to create a specific type of citizen, smart enough to push the buttons and run the machines, but not smart enough to realize they are being ripped off. They teach you to be a consumer, not a producer. They teach you to save in a currency that is being devalued every second by the government that runs the schools. The game is rigged, and the rule book was burned before you even entered the classroom, the social cage. But the most dangerous lesson isn't found in the textbooks. It is found in the hallways. It is the hidden curriculum of social terror. School is the first time in your life where you are thrown into a hierarchy based on nothing but conformity. In the wild, status is based on competence. In school, status is based on compliance. If you sit still, you are good. If you repeat the teacher's opinion, you are smart. But if you challenge the narrative, or if you dress differently, or if you have an idea that doesn't fit the mold, you are punished, not just by the teachers, but by the other prisoners. Consider the concept of the tall poppy. In a field of poppies, the one that grows higher than the rest gets cut down. School is the lawnmower. If you are too slow, the system shames you. But if you are too fast, if you are too bored because the work is too easy, they do not praise you. They tell you to slow down. They tell you to wait for the class. They teach you that your potential is an inconvenience to the group. You learn that being exceptional is a social crime. The system worships the average. It is designed for the middle of the bell curve, and anyone who exists on the edges must be pruned until they fit. This is the crab bucket mentality. If you put a single crab in a bucket, it can easily escape. But if you put a dozen crabs in together, they will grab the one trying to climb out and pull it back down to the bottom. School teaches your peers to police you. It weaponizes the fear of embarrassment. They have trained your neighbors to be your prison guards. You are afraid to speak the truth, not because the police will come to your door, but because you are afraid of being ostracized by the very people who are in the same cage as you. Think about the psychological conditioning of raising your hand. You are 18 years old, a legal adult, yet you have been trained for 12 years to ask another human being for permission to speak. You have been trained to ask for permission to use the bathroom. You've been trained to wait for a bell to ring before you can move your body. Do you think this conditioning just vanishes when you graduate? It does not. It follows you into the cubicle. It is the voice in your head that says, "Don't start that business, people will laugh at you." It is the anxiety that freezes you when you want to ask for a raise. You are still waiting for a teacher to give you permission to be successful. But there is no teacher anymore, and the bell will never ring. They have built a prison in your mind where the walls are made of other people's opinions. And until you realize that the door was never locked, you will never leave the bucket. The unschooling, the escape. So, here is the uncomfortable truth. The system will not change. It is too big, too profitable, and too effective at creating obedient workers. Waiting for the government to fix education is like waiting for a casino to fix the slot machines so the players win more often. It is not going to happen. The only way out is to unschool yourself. You must systematically deprogram the 12 years of conditioning you endured. Step 1 is to realize that your diploma is not a ticket to freedom. It is a receipt for a transaction where you traded your curiosity for compliance. Real education does not begin until you leave the classroom. Mark Twain famously said, "I never let my schooling interfere with my education." You must adopt the same mindset. You live in the age of the internet. The Library of Alexandria is in your pocket. You can learn sales, coding, psychology, finance, and artificial intelligence for free on YouTube, or for the price of a book. The gatekeepers are dead. You do not need a professor to give you permission to learn about money. You do not need a dean to stamp your forehead with a degree to prove you are valuable. In the new economy, the market does not care about your grades. The market cares about your skills. Can you solve a problem? Can you build a product? Can you sell a service? If the answer is yes, you will be wealthy. If the answer is no, your master's degree is just expensive wallpaper. Stop asking for permission. Stop waiting for the bell to ring. Start building a portfolio of skills that the school system ignored. Read the books they didn't assign. Study the history they didn't teach. Learn the financial literacy they hid from you. The Prussian Model was designed to build a floor under you so you wouldn't starve, but it also built a ceiling above you so you wouldn't fly. It is time to smash that ceiling. The factory is closed. The job security is gone. You are on your own. This should not scare you. It should liberate you. It means that for the first time in your life, your potential is actually up to you. Do not be a student. Be a scholar. Do not be an employee. Be an owner. The bell does not dismiss you. You dismiss yourself. Class is dismissed.